Hello viewers. Today we have a pair of Edison box fans. Each of these I have talked about in separate videos individually, but I thought it would be interesting to compare the two. Now this would be kind of, in my mind, like doing a comparison between a P23 and a P223 on the Lakewood side. So this would really be the era equivalents to those models, because I believe the Edison on the right, the metal bladed Edison, dates back to the mid 70s, 74, 75, somewhere in there. And the Edison on the left, I believe, is more like late 70s and the early 80s. And the reason why I can say early 80s is I remember as a little boy in the early 80s going into what would be the equivalent to like a Home Depot at that time, a store called Channel, which was it was a chain, not quite as large as Home Depot, that was popular in the 80s, and I think they went out of business in the 90s, and they, I think, got acquired by Rickles, and Rickles went out of business when the Home Depots of the world took over and the Lowe's. But I remember going in there as a young boy with my dad and my grandfather, and I think I tell that story in my McGraw-Edison comfort fan video. And so I remember seeing there, as my point, in the early 80s. So I think these went as far into the early 80s where I think the metal bladed Edison was probably by the 1980s done for. And so what I'm curious is if there was an overlap, or if the comfort fan replaced the metal one. And you could see the evolution really going from the plastic blades, from the metal blades, and the guard being plastic on this side. Those of you who follow the channel know that the comfort fan is my all-time favorite fan. I tell the story in that video. I think I own 5 or 6 of them, and some of the variants. The only 2 variants I do not own is the infinite speed version, as well as the model with the Venturi ring on it. But every other one I have, and I will keep looking for those fans. Those infinite speed fans are kind of rare, and the Venturi ones as well. The one here on the left is the most common, probably, of that generation. My first kind of reboot, if you will, I talk about this fan quite a bit. When I say reboot, meaning after the childhood fans are long since gone, and then eBay came to be, and around 2007, I got my hands on one. So after 15 years of not having one, I got one. But that one was labeled a comfort conditioner, and I don't know the origin of comfort conditioner versus comfort fan. I'm sure it's just marketing. But in terms of what came first, I think I want to say the comfort conditioner possibly came first, but again, I am not sure. So here we are. I just wanted to talk about really the difference and the similarities, and I think the obvious one is, and again, it's kind of like telling the story between Lakewood fans, but the cabinet on both fans, the same cabinet. The switch, the handle, the same. Now, I pointed out in other videos, and both these fans have this. So notice where the switch sits. It sits further back. And hopefully this is making it on camera. It sits further back, which for me, I don't really, it's a pain. I wish it was more centered, and that was always the thing. The reason being, if you run this fan in the window with the air coming in, that means the window would be here. And you don't have much real estate with the switch sitting back. And this is a wide cabinet, right? Maybe slightly narrower than a Lakewood of its generation, but still a wide cabinet, especially compared to today's standards. So if you're using the fan on exhaust, which if you watch some of my videos, if I'm not running the AC in parts of the house, I tend to run the fan on exhaust. It's just something I've always done. And so then in that case, you have all of this real estate to stick down on the window. And this thing on a windy day will not move that way. But on the other side, you kind of have to put it in a little bit of an angle. What I think it's really cool with these metal grills on both sides. It's just, I mean, it's just such a cool fan. And even when they went to plastic, these aren't chintzy. And what I like about the dark, always like the dark on this, it just looks so cool when the light hits it in certain angles. Like right now, it's kind of a gray because there's light and equal light probably on both sides of the room. Actually, I just closed the curtain back there, so it was more translucent on this side. But this fan takes on a completely different character or look when it's running in the day or at night. And I know like a typical white bladed fan does as well, but this looks like a completely different fan. I also think whether you have this fan on exhaust or intake, it's almost like two different fans in terms of how it looks, both again during the day and at night. So I've always kind of really liked that. So what else with these guys? Obviously you can't see it on camera, or not really see it, but feel it. Well, the dimensions, they're exactly the same cabinet and all, as we pointed out. That weighs a ton. That is a heavy fan, and I should imagine the blades are really the only difference in terms of what makes up the weight, because I think it's the exact same motor. They're mounted slightly different, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. One of the things I talk about with any of my fans and any of my in my collection that have like the plastic strap handles, I don't pick them up by their handles, and I have instructed everyone in every one of my locations that I have these fans, whether it's a Lasco that has a handle like this, a Toastmaster, whatever, do not pick it up by the handle. It's amazing that something this big and heavy has just something this small. Also, one of the things I can tell you, I could close my eyes and walk into a room and know that an Edison fan is running, because you get that rattle from the handle. So one of the things I do, and maybe you do if you run these fans, is I take a stack of Post-it notes, just slide it under the handle while it's in the window or even running on the floor, and it gets rid of the rattle. Or if I have it in the window and I don't have Post-its and there's like a set of blinds in the window, I'll lower the blind so it rests on the cabinet while it's in the window, and it kind of rests on the handle. It keeps it from rattling. So you learn these tricks. You know, I was born in the late 70s. I'm dating myself. So basically from the time I could remember, I remember this. And I remember a Edison thin and light in my house. So really, aside from a 15-year period from 1992 to 2007, I've always had one of these around. And I think I will. And that's why I try to grab them when I can get them, to learn about them. I'm trying to be, the short of repairing a winding, I'm getting better and better. I've done a full restoration on another one, my Comfort conditioner, that I'll talk about, or I have talked about in another video and need to talk about again with something else going on with it. So this metal one, I've told the story, watched the video on this metal one, I told the story how I first knew that this fan even existed, and that dates back to the early 90s when I first saw one of these, and by then these were long discontinued, and I saw one in a commercial setting in the public bathroom of all places at the beach, and thought, wow, that thing's nasty looking. So I've been keeping my eye out for these. These don't come up that often, and yeah, I had to go to eBay to get it. And it seems like when it rains, it pours. Like this one came up, then a mint condition one came up right behind it, but I just couldn't justify the price after I know I overpaid for this, but it is rare, I get it. And it does need some restoration work, probably some oiling as well, and certainly cleaning, and the cabinet's rusted. There's cobwebs in there. I've been running it a little bit this summer just for fun, but just kind of in light use. So let's turn them around. Check them out really quick. So the earlier Edisons, when they went from the Eskimo style, Toastmaster, whatever, with the actual metal traditional metal supports where the motor's mounted. I think they first went to this kind of plated design, which is interesting. Then they went to, again, I'm sure at that time it was considered, oh, we can use less materials if we change the mounts to this. So I believe that's what they did. Even though at the time people, I'm sure, were like, oh wow, they're getting cheap on these fans. They're going from this to this. I mean, any fan that you buy in the 70s or 80s is awesome. So my childhood is remembering this in the window. That's what I remember. And what I find interesting is, aside from the obvious similarities, the difference here, while I believe, again, this is the same motor, although this motor does look fatter. Could be just because it's more of it's exposed than that. If anyone knows, physically they pretty much look like the same thing, and I think they also look different because those blades are mounted directly to the shaft on the other side, where I like to call, the back side of the hub, where it comes around the outside of the motor. It's almost like to me like a collar, so this kind of like sticks on and has like that collar. What I even like with these fans, when the sun shines on the outside and you have this on exhaust, where you can see in the back side of the hub, it lights up, and it's just a cool look. Differences. I could draw this fan from memory down to this little clip here. And this clip holds the wires that go to the switch, and then they come down, right? And I think this fan was, previous owner restored it, because I think these are aftermarket zip ties that hold this in place. One thing I do struggle, and I'm going to do another video with my comfort conditioner, is these switches. Once you take them out, you have to be super careful, because they basically don't go back in. And I could use some help with that. And I'll show that in another video. So they clearly changed the design a little bit to be a little more efficient. So this, same thing with the clip, and the wires come down the other side and come out the front here. So it seems to me that someone probably thought, well, why don't we can save this much material and wire and just have it come down, which is fine by me. Now, I am so used to these fans, whether it's a comfort fan, thin and light fan, even a Toastmaster, where the wire comes out through the motor there. I'm so used to it. However, I do think it's a weak point of these things, because if you have to, I did have one, my childhood one, where this kind of frayed and I had to bypass it and kind of just run the wire through there, and I didn't like that. So you almost have to get some kind of grommet or something to go back through to replace that. And I hope I don't have to run into that situation soon. But that is a weak point with these fans. It might have been nicer if they just ran the wire, keep these here, or just run the wire down and out. But they didn't. So I would say that's probably really the differences. They're very similar from that makeup. Now, this just has the cool factor. I talked about why I love these translucent blades, so cool. But this just, anything with a metal blade, automatic has cool factor. And what I like is, if you see on the back of these blades, there's a little bit of kind of like gray. When you have this fan turned on and that's spinning around, it kind of creates this ring, which is really, really neat. So I'm going to turn them on this way first, just so I'm not turning around again. So we'll turn them on. We'll do low. So very typical. I think these things have strong lows. They have feet, but I don't have the feet on there. I didn't get the feet with these, but I do have extras if I wanted to really use them. So. Right. Well, that one's spinning down. We'll give this one a good old low. You can see that ring I'm talking about. And what I like about metal bladed fans is they sound like spacecrafts taking off. So we'll watch that spin down. And I haven't oiled that fan yet. Actually, I don't think I've oiled this one yet either. That thing just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. So cool. This is one of 3 metal bladed fans I own. I have a P23, a P25, and this. And they're just, to me, just awesome. Awesome, awesome. So I think they do blend a little bit of the vintage 60s with kind of like the 80s. Kind of, these are like the transitional years before they went to plastic blades kind of thing. All right, so the Edison. I like the big hub. I like the badge in the center. It's just what I remember. Yeah, it vibrates a little bit, but it's not like a modern Lasco that's going to move all over the countertop. All right, so let's check out the big boy one more time. And what's cool about these old fans, they had like little to no badging on them. I mean, the handle says, I think the handle says Edison on them. Yeah, that handle's, you can see it, it's wearing out. This thing will vibrate all over the place. I don't know if it's a balance issue or what, but I haven't opened it up yet. This thing will move all over the place on high. Actually, not bad. The rear grill is moving. I think I don't know if it needs to be tightened down, but it's moving so much air, the air, love it, it's moving. We'll do a spin down. So what do you guys think? Do you like these? Are these good alternatives to the Lakewoods of their generation? I think we all have our sentimental ties depending on when we were born, what was in our house growing up. So the Edison for me always was that. And I think it also is extra special because they're not quite as common for sure as the Lakewood. Yeah, they were out there for sure. I remember in the 80s seeing them in windows and whatnot. But I feel for every one of these, you saw 3 Lakewoods. So if you like Edison fans, if you like box fans, check out the channel. We got a lot there on both. We got comparison videos, unboxing videos, just check out videos, check them out. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. I've had some good discussions with some of the fellow collectors. And before we step away, we'll leave you with this. Double trouble.